Hey guys, how's it going? Eli here, back with another video where today we're going to be doing some price analysis in regards to Wizards of the Coast Neo era Pokemon as well as sealed product. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So as always, got to get it out of the way. We are doing weekly giveaways each and every week. All you have to do to enter is comment down below, leave a like, and be subscribed to the YouTube channel and any of the 3 videos that we post each and every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. As far as it goes as well, we like to announce our winners on Monday, which we will be doing today. The prizes for those people who are wondering is we have up to 3 winners. Each person will be given at least 6 Fusion Strike booster packs. And as we progressively get more and more subscribers each and every week, we will begin to give away more and more packs. Once we hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers, then we will increase it to 3 winners, 8 packs, and then continuously so on and so forth. Now that I got that out of the way, let's announce the overall winners for today's video. So as far as it goes, congratulations for the 3 people that won. Obviously, I only had 2 videos that I just posted this last week. So you only got 2 opportunities. It shouldn't have made a huge difference in all regards, but obviously one less kind of entry nonetheless still plays a role. But regardless, this is something that won't happen that often. It was just for Christmas weekend. But here are the official winners. Gonna move my face out of the way. HK official, and then Ostrich Party. Congratulations for being the overall winners for this week's giveaway. As always, like I mentioned each and every week on Monday, if you want to just shoot me an email, support at pokemartusa.com. You can find it at our website, links in the description down below. Just kind of give us some form of proof so that we can verify it's you, as well as shoot us your overall information in regards to what your mailing address is. Now, let's just jump right now into today's video. So one thing I want to kind of say actually before we start is I've actually been sick the past couple of days with what I think is COVID. So if I start to repeat myself and I sound super foggy, I apologize for that. I've been bedridden. So I'm really going to try and focus here. So please forgive me if I do end up kind of going on a tangent for a little bit. But we're going to be talking about overall Wizards of the Coast sealed product, singles, and then more specifically, we're going to focus a lot on kind of the Shining era. When it comes to, is it kind of a worthwhile investment to get into a lot of these Shining cards, as well as some of the booster boxes from around that time. I also did a poll as well last week where I had people ask me or ask the question for people of which kind of upcoming video would you guys like me to talk about. I know there was some people that were very adamant about talking about the Black and White, Diamond and Pearl, and EX era. Obviously, Wotc won the overall polling, so just letting you guys know, Wotc is just going to be the video coming out next, and then I will talk about the Black and White era and then Japanese promos after that. So those are going to be the next 3. I'm just going to do it in that order. First thing we're going to kind of talk about is, so what exactly is the Neo era? So for those people that don't really know, the Neo era was basically, the introduction as far as it goes to 2nd generation. You obviously had with your first one, Neo Genesis, came out in the early 2000s. The set in and of itself, of course, featured all 3 of the starters. You had the Lugia, which is one of the most highest, sold cards on record, right next to the Charizard. The reason for this is because it has such a low population. And then on top of that as well, you have some of the other starters that have sold for relatively high prices. Of course, then on top of that, you also have other sets such as Neo Destiny, which has a Shining Charizard in it. You have some other sets, Neo Discovery, Neo Revelation. We'll kind of get into all of them, but we're going to take a look at a couple in particular and look at the sales history. First thing I kind of want to take a look at, like I mentioned before, we're going to be taking first and foremost looking at the cards that are shining. So first one we're going to take a look at is we're going to look at the Shining Gyarados Neo Revelations. As always, PokemonPrice.com is where I'm getting all my information, as well as last sold listings on eBay, and then Heritage Auction are kind of going to be my main 3 sources if you guys want to look up a lot of this information, just so you know where I'm getting all this from. One of the things I find very interesting, and one of the reasons why I actually listed the Gyarados as one of the cards I wanted to take a follow on, is if you actually look at the recent sales history, going all the way back until July of 2021, it actually had a price record, and this is the back end of July, take that in mind, of $13,500. So it's very interesting to see that the overall price itself was still absolutely steamrolling, because when a lot of cards, basically what you saw is about the end of you know, kind of 2020 and the start of 2021, you really start to see prices flatten. Obviously you saw a record sale back at the start of 2021 at 10,000. You saw it kind of steam downwards, and then you saw it just hit that record. Now, of course, one thing that's very interesting is, since this is, you know, without the time frame that eBay has when it comes to looking at past price history, we obviously have sales like snapshots that we can see on these prices, but we can't actually take a look and click and see what kind of the overall price itself looked like. Was it on bid? Was it at best offer? Because those are things that will play into consideration. But regardless of whether you want to take that as a factor, we can still take a look at it nonetheless and speculate. Now, if you want to take a look at the most recent sale, we had one that sold recently. This was sold actually by TCA Gaming for $7,100, and this was sold on an auction back in December, so literally just recently. So if you so if you take that into consideration, that in and of itself is almost about a I want to say about 45% drop is what we're kind of taking a look at off of this high. But if you don't consider that and you say off of this high, then it's about a 30% drop. A decent drop nonetheless, but it's not as harsh as a lot of the other ones if you're going off of this last sale and not the 13,500. Especially considering, in and of itself, Shining Gyarados, although it is a popular Shining, it is not something as popular as, say, like the Shining Charizard. Now, of course, you can take into consideration the fact of the matter that there's only 104 of these in population, so scarcity is obviously going to play a factor in regards to the overall value of the card. But if we want to take a look at the overall price sales history of the card in and of itself, we want to go all the way back. We can take a look and see, okay, this card was selling for, about a low. We can go farther back. About a low back at, after the Pokemon boom, $660. And then right before, the start of 2019, it hit a even lower low of about $615. And then, of course, started to really climb once it headed into 2019. And here's an interesting argument that I feel like can be made too, is prior to that, if you want to go look at the sales history for this card, and this is a fun one I think you can actually make. And, you can obviously criticize me on this if you want. But the overall high was $1,217, right? When it came to the overall price history of the Gyarados back in 2016 after the kind of Pokemon Go bubble. Obviously, it crashed, went down about 50%, and then that's kind of where it flatlined. And, there's a certain argument to be made as far as it goes in regards to whether or not a Gyarados long-term is a good, investment based on what we've seen from price history. Obviously, we can see here, based on the chart, $1,000, basically $615, goes back up to $1,000, then goes down to $660. Overall, throughout the trend, it was kind of ping-ponging in between that, low to mid-60s to upper 900s. And of course, since its overall high was 1,200, whether you want to think of it this way or not, from its overall range high, you were still being able to get the price if you would buy at its all-time high, which hopefully you hadn't, but if you hypothetically did, about a 15% drop. Of course, if you bought it as high and then sold at its overall low, then it's a 50% drop. But the point that I'm kind of making by this is it just showed that over time, after the kind of bubble, as we'll say, it really went up and down, which I think is something that's very important, and we'll see kind of a lot going into the next year or two. There are going to be a lot of cards that are going to range trade and kind of do what's called consolidating. For those people that don't know what consolidating means, basically it's just where you're going to see a price fluctuation between a certain range for certain cards, and that's because a lot of the times the market is kind of set at, okay, this is kind of deemed the fair market price at the current time. Demand hasn't gone down for this card, but it hasn't gone up enough to where the card is going to truly blow up again, but it still has spikes of demand and kind of drops in demand kind of gradually over time, where it's just kind of a zigzag. And with that being said, you kind of deem those as good opportunities when it comes to investing, because that's where you kind of have a clear like accumulation phase on whether or not it's really worthwhile as far as it goes to invest. So I feel like that's one really good argument to make in regards to, okay, when looking at price action like this, is it something that's worth it? And I feel like you can see that with a lot of cards. We'll take a look at the Charizard. For example, this one obviously has a lot more price action history. You want to really talk about something that was very, very so, up and down, up and down. This Charizard from the Neo Destiny era, first off, it has about double the population as the other card. Kind of makes sense as a Charizard, super popular card. Very much so up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then, of course, overall, price low. Let's see if we can go all the way down. It's about 680. And then we can go all the way and say to ourselves, wow, $25,000 is the, highest sale. Of course, now we go back to history. Sold for about $13,800 once again, actually around the similar percentage as far as it goes with Shiny Gyarados. So from an overall return perspective, it follows a very similar, kind of, devaluation in regards to the overall bubble. But if you want to kind of do the math on which one kind of returned more, and we can even do from high to low. So if you want to take a look, right, and say $2,550, that's going to be the overall high, and then you're going to say, 25,000. We'll just make it easy, say it's about a 10x return, right? Then you can take a look at the Shining Gyarados. From its overall high, we know 12,000. If you want to consider it to be this one, then the Shiny Gyarados actually outperformed. If not, and you want to take a look at this one, it slightly underperformed the overall Charizard. And that's something that I also think is very important for a lot of people to understand. Just because it's a bigger number doesn't mean it's a bigger percentage when it comes to your overall, net return. A lot of these cards tend to kind of, especially if they're in the same era, they tend to kind of follow the same percentage patterns in regards to how much they fluctuate up and down. Interestingly enough, of course, and I could say interestingly enough, but it honestly makes sense. Charizard has, double the population of the overall Gyarados. However, it falls around the same exact, price percentage. Reasoning behind this is because double the demand, half as much demand as the Charizard, but since it has half as much as the supply, more scarcity off balance to demand, kind of makes sense why it runs that way. So, and Gyarados, that's not to say that Gyarados isn't a unpopular card by all means. Of course, Gyarados is a first edition, or not first edition, sorry, but a first generation, Pokemon. And so for that reason, it holds a lot of kind of sentimental value. So it will go up long term. It is a popular card nonetheless, but it's just still something that is worth comparing, because obviously Charizard is arguably the most popular card of all time in regards to price value, and I feel like that's a pretty fair statement to say, especially when you consider that every single time a new Pokemon set comes out with a Charizard in it, it's usually the most popular expensive card, more specifically. But yeah, so that's something that I think is very interesting to kind of compare and consider. Obviously, when we made our last Wizard of the Coast video and we were kind of talking about a lot of the price analysis, one of the things we really kind of honed in and focused on was 3 key elements. We talked about population report, specifically when we were talking about the Jungle Pikachu. We talked specifically about the overall holos and the scarcity that comes with those holos. Vaporeon was the one we looked at. Even though it was a very scarce card, it still dropped a decent amount. And then we obviously talked about sealed, and how sealed in and of itself was still not custom to overall devaluation. But obviously certain ones outperformed others or dropped less than others based on that. What we've kind of seen with the Shining era is you've seen a decent amount as far as it goes when it comes to the overall drop. Is it something that we could see continue price action drop further? I think it's a fair statement to say as we really start to see demand die out, of course. Or demand die out. I don't know if that's the right way of putting it, but demand go down. Obviously, demand's not dying out because people are still buying these cars for thousands of dollars, but it's begun to decrease, and we really started to see a continuation of that trend. And this is something that is bled into just about every kind of era within Wizards of the Coast, except for, of course, the niche eras that I've kind of talked about. But going next topic, we're going to be talking about with the overall Neo era. And I kind of looked at this already a little bit in last video, but I'm actually going to kind of double down on it a little bit more, or I should say last Wars of the Coast video. It is the overall Neo Genesis booster box. Obviously, we focused on Shinings, but what's kind of interesting to see, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second, but Neo Genesis overall, you know, record price sale was for around $33 or $33,000. If you guys want to take a look, we can try and see as far as it goes. Neo Genesis first edition booster box. We're not going to see it for around that price. I guarantee it, mainly just because the fact of the matter is this doesn't have as far of price history as you would kind of see with, and yeah, like look at this. You can see $20,000 November 6th. You know, this is a unlimited version. Just double checking. Yep, first edition. Yeah, you're not going to see the price action history as far as it goes, leading all the way back to what Heritage Auction has. So if for some people are wondering why is it I use Heritage Auction when it comes to looking at a lot of auctions over eBay, reason for it is because Heritage Auction allows you to go all the way back and you look at and see a lot of the price action prior to, you know, 1 or 2 to 3 months. I know that as far as eBay goes, they have a limitation to how far you can go back. They do this on purpose from what I've heard from price manipulation. But you know, regardless of how you want to look at it, as far as it goes, like I said, 33,600 was the all-time high back in July, based on what I'm seeing right here. Obviously, there could have been a higher sold booster box if someone wants to, you know, clarify that for me. Then November 6th, 22,800 here. Coincidentally enough, we also had a sale around the same exact time for the first edition, November 6th, the exact date actually, for 20,500. So selling it on eBay, actually, you could have made 2,000 more if you had decided to go with Heritage instead of eBay. Of course, there are fees that you would calculate into that. But yeah, as far as it goes, doing the math, obviously, you know, 33,000, you know, 20,600 divided by 33,600 equals, you know, about a 39% drop. So that's still in and of itself a decent drop from its overall all-time high. Once again, just really doubling down on the overall, you know, sealed market when it comes to the overall prices of these boxes. But one thing I do want to talk about, and this is why I said I didn't really bring it up as far as it goes with the Neo Destiny booster boxes, and we can take a look at some of the other ones. But if you actually look up right now, we can see Neo Destiny. If we look up just Neo Destiny, more specifically I should say Neo Destiny booster box, if we look at the overall Neo Destiny booster box sales history, there is 0 overall sales history on this website as far as it goes, especially when we're talking about, you know, looking at the first edition. Obviously, we can take a look at the Unlimited, and if you guys want to, we can also look at that instead. But from the overall, you know, first edition, there is literally 0 price sales history on you know, eBay as well as on Heritage Auction. So I think that's very interesting. We can do Neo Destiny Unlimited booster box, and we can take a look and see how the price history has really gone down in the Unlimited department. But as far as it goes, we don't really have a ton of history when it comes to first edition, which I think is an argument that could make in regards to the sealed product being more valuable for the Shinings in and of themselves within the Neo era. And I mean, look, even for a Neo Destiny, you know, first edition and a Neo Destiny Unlimited, you can't really find it. And I think honestly, as crazy as that might sound, even though of course, you know, we don't have the price action history showing, of course ignore these. These are never gonna sell. You know, change my mind. People will have these listed, they never end up selling. A lot of the times people just list them at that prices just so they can kind of add their social media. But as far as it goes, I think this actually does show that there is, you know, an indication that since there are booster boxes that are considerably scarce, they're still going to hold. And of course, this is very speculative, so please understand everything I say, take it with a grain of salt. But I think this could show indications to the fact of the matter that there is still opportunity when it comes to continued growth during this downtrend market in sets or sealed products such as Neo Destiny, because the fact of the matter is the overall sealed booster boxes, the sales record on it is so low that there aren't really many that you can kind of find on recent price history, which goes to show you how truly scarce it is. And with that being said, if it is one of those cards that is super duper scarce, obviously in bear markets it will tend to still go down, but when it's something like this that is hyper scarce and you can't even see like very little price action history over the span of the past year or two in an overall uptrend, that really should tell you guys how scarce the item in and of itself is. So just take, like I said, that with a grain of salt. That's one of the reasons why I didn't really focus on the Neo Destiny sealed, because there isn't really much to focus on when it comes to the overall sealed product of both the Unlimited as well as the first edition. Taking a look, of course, at the Neo Genesis is a lot more indicative when kind of talking about the overall era when it comes to the Neo sealed product. And of course, taking a look at the overall Neo Destiny cards. And of course, if you guys are like, well, we don't want to just look at Shinings, we want to take a look at other cards as well. Okay, well, we can do Lugia. And we can take a look at the Lugia from Neo Genesis first edition Holo, and this will be just as important when kind of taking a look at the overall price action history. And here we're going to take a look at the 10. I mean, guys, look at that chart. Look at that chart. You want to talk about a card that's dropped significantly, and this once again goes to show you that PSA population, although it plays a factor, sometimes it doesn't mean jack. When you have a card that's worth at its peak around $129,000, 43 of them as the overall population, which is ridiculously scarce, and then you have an overall sold price back in September, and this is back in September for around $48,000. Guys, that's a massive price decline. That's like around 60%. So that really should go to show you, as far as it goes, how population scarcity doesn't mean everything, but also at the same time you could kind of make an argument saying that the card in and of itself is, quote unquote, overvalued for $129. But to be honest with you, considering the card is so scarce and it's a Lugia, which is one of the most popular cards in Pokemon, I don't think it's an unfair statement to say. So I think what's an actual fair statement to say is that the card in and of itself overcorrected. And if you want to take a look at PSA 9, and we've looked at this before, and this was actually in one of my old this was in one of my old videos for what I said was super underrated or undervalued cards that I think would be good long-term investments. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor. But if you literally look right now, $15,000 is the overall high. And at the time, we were actually able to go back and look at it. This says around 3,000, but I actually saw a record sale not that long ago. Okay, there you go, 2,400. Guys, that percentage from 15,000 to 2,400, even if you say to yourself 2,400 super expensive, if it were to go back to its all-time high from that, you're going to be making a crazy amount of money. And if you want to say, okay, well, that's a fluke, well then, okay, fine, we'll do $10,000. That's still around a 5x gain. That's actually more value gained than if you were to have bought in the overall PSA 10. And now maybe you can say the PSA 9 in and of itself is overvalued. Of course, there's argument made for that considering how crazy high it got. But I still think if you're saying to yourself, the overall PSA 10, regardless of whether there's a population difference of, 90%, 95%, I still think it's fair to say that in overall comparing PSA 10 to PSA 9, having the overall price be literally, less than, a little bit more than 15% of what the actual value at the highest point for the PSA 10 was. And basically what I'm saying, 129,000, 15% of that is around 15,000. I still think it's not an unfair statement to say that the card in of itself was valued proportionally regardless of population. And like I've once again mentioned before, there is that demand aspect, and Lugia is a super popular card. So I think that when looking at it, this is a very, very undervalued card, and I think that it's retraced ridiculously low. I remember, I think I saw a sale the other day, went 2,100 on the card, and I can't believe it's dropping that low. And in all honesty, if I'm being completely honest, I think I'm gonna probably pick up, and this is not financial advice, not financial advisor, but you could possibly see me picking up these cards, because I think long term they're gonna perform really well, especially as someone who is a fan of the Lugia card myself. But as I always say, do what you want as far as it goes. But this is kind of gonna be my one tip when looking at a lot of cards that I think and took a little bit too much of a dip. And this is kind of our Pikachu as far as it goes, but the difference between this card and the Pikachu from the last Wizards of the Coast video that I made is that the Pikachu's population absolutely skyrocketed, versus this one, it's not a 1,000+ population report. As far as for the PSA 10, it's a 43, and for the PSA 9, it's not 5 to 10,000 population, it's 423. So super interesting information to kind of take a look at. And once again, do your own research on kind of the decisions you want to make financially when it comes to investing in this kind of stuff. But as far as it goes, kind of wrapping up the video, main things we kind of obviously looking at the overall Neo Shining Pokemon. What do we kind of find out? Followed a very similar trend to the Wizards of the Coast area. I think the trend will continue, not financial advice, but it's dropped about 35 to 40%. So very similar pattern. Do I think it's potentially worth a pickup? Of course that's up to you, but if it were me, I'd personally wait, because I think that it's something that could continue to go down. Looking at the sealed product, we found there is opportunities for sealed product that basically is scarce, such as the overall Neo Destiny booster boxes, which we have very low price history. But when we take a look at Neo Gen, for example, which has a lot higher price history, saw around a 40% drop. Once again, kind of following the overall shining value, which goes to show you the market in and of itself, of course, is following when it comes to the overall Neo, era trend across the board. Then, of course, you want to take a look at the Lugia card. We saw that the overall price absolutely crashed around, 80+%, which then goes to show us, is this a card that is undervalued and it overcorrected, or was it overvalued? Personally, I believe it is a card that is currently undervalued. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, because of course I do think this market could go down further, but not financial advisor, but I myself will more than likely be picking up some of these Lugia PSA 9s in the near future. But as far as it goes, that is all I have for today's video. Once again, we are doing our weekly giveaways. All you have to do to enter, subscribe, leave a like down below, and comment on any one of our 3 videos we post each and every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Up to 3 entries to win, because we have 3 winners, and then obviously up to 3 opportunities, because you obviously can enter multiple times, because you can comment and like on each one of the videos we post Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But thank you guys all so much for watching. Until then, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace.